Yo, YouTube. Today I'm installing a Hypervolt tethered 7-meter EV charger. I'm also installing a double pole 40 amp RCBO Hager. I replaced the consumer unit in this property probably about a year ago, and at the time the client did tell me that they plan on getting a charge point, so I have allowed some space to stick that on the end of the bus bar. My plan is I've unscrewed all the guttering clips, as you can see, and I've drilled a hole in the bottom of the soffit there. I'm going to cleat it behind the guttering so it's more aesthetically pleasing. I will not run cables in cavities ever. I think it's piss poor workmanship to do that, and all those extra low voltage technicians who run their cables in cavities need to have a word with themselves, because it's not right in my opinion. Drill up through the soffit, cleat down the guttering. I'm going to cleat it using some D-line EV saddles. I'm going to cleat the cable on the rafters, and then here is where the meter is and the cutout is, and the consumer unit is back to back with this enclosure. So I plan on cleating it down behind the guttering and then drilling in at an angle. The consumer unit is in a little boot cupboard, like where they keep all their shoes underneath the stairs. So I'm going to cleat it surface around the skirting, come up to my consumer unit. I'm going to fit a whisker box, gland the cable into the bottom of the whisker box, and then drill, hopefully, rear entry into the meter cabinet for the Cat6 cabling for the CT clamps, and then a little stub of conduit from the top of this box into the bottom of my consumer unit to terminate into the RCBO. That's my plan. This was the best option in my opinion, or the best route, because there's no way of going around the front of the house, not without some serious labour, and I'm a sparky. I don't do hard work. I am using 6mm EV cable. So it's got a Cat6 inside, 4 pair. Is it 4 pair? Yeah, 4 pair with 6mm line, neutral and CPC conductors. I'm using the like high tough stuff rather than the armoured cable. Here's the loft. So there's my cable coming up from the soffit. I've cleated it up and round all the way along the rafters. I used a mixture of plastic and metal, and then it goes, sweeps under there, and then cleats all the way around to the front of the house. And there's the last, I've got to put one more cleat in right at the last joist there, last rafter. For those of you who probably said in the comments he's never going to go around the other side and put that last cleat in, yeah, I am. It's going to break. Right, so both ends of the cable are in, and I happen to have, I don't know why, a bit of 22mm overflow pipe, which the 6mm EV Ultra fits perfectly through it. So I did have 25 in the van in case it didn't work. I've sleeved through the wall. Dust trick on the silicone. There we go. I'm going to fit one more cleat in, I reckon, just down there, just to hold that loop in. I've got my 6mm high tough. I'm not going to put ferrules on them because they're coarse stranded conductors. I'll only put ferrules on fine stranded conductors. If you wanted to, you could put flat blade crimps on these because they're coarse stranded conductors. They're straightforward enough. 1.8 Newton meters for the torque setting for the CPC, neutral and line. I'll probably do a little sweep or something like that to keep them neat, or a bit of slack like that. That looks nice, something like that. And then this is a Cat 6, which is inside. I'm going to double up the cores. So I'm going to put the orange pair and the blue pair, terminate them into this little plug, and then that goes into that terminal just there, I believe, number 3. Always read the manufacturer's instructions. Yes, number 3, CT1 connection. You can mount the charge point between 0.5 and 1.5, which is actually much lower than some of the other charge points I've fitted. But these are fairly straightforward, fairly easy to install. Always heat shrink just the ends, just neatens it all up, in my opinion. Make sure my connections are nice and tight on the plug. Double up the CT clamp cable. That goes in that plug there, like that. Nice and easy, straightforward. There's my cable coming in. I've got a D-line saddle there, 25mm stuffer. Okay, I've got a conduit coming through the wall for the CT connections. I put the clamp on already. I'll show you that in a minute. I brought the cable through, connected it onto the orange and blue pair. I heat shrink them up, put them in Wagos. I've got my 6mm conductors going straight through. I had to do a 32 to 25 reducer and then a 25 nipple to get into there, because as I was drilling the hole, it landed right on a knockout. And as I was drilling the 25mm hole, the whole knockout just came out. So 32 to 25 reducer with a 25 nipple coming up. These are my conductors going to go in. So I'll just tuck them away in there. If I can, I'll always try to keep the CT cables outside of a consumer unit. I don't like to have them inside, because they're technically not rated, for 230 volts. So it shouldn't really be inside a consumer unit. So, I mean, but, let's be honest, sometimes you can't help it, and they just go around the tails inside the consumer unit. So basically I'm going to take off. So if I want to put it there, I'm going to shuffle that along to that space. And then, see, I've got my line conductors in the bottom there, in the cage clamp, but that one's empty. Sit it on like that, shuffle that along, sit it on like that, get my neutral fire lead up to there, and then line neutral on the top, and then CPC to the bar. So that's how to put one of these in retrofit. This is a true double pole RCD Type A for this EV unit. Here's my CT clamp. I've got to clip it on in the direction of current flow. So in this instance, we're going into our installation. The current flow is going to be that way. There we go. Like that. And there's our CT clamp. The cable and the conduit goes through the wall there in some conduit. Right. The installation is isolated. Connected the line and the CPC. I'm going to go and do my R1, R2. What a sound client. He brought me a thermos flask of tea and some biscuits. 0.11. Now I'm going to perform my installation resistance test. Line to CPC. I'm going to do it at 500 volts. Lovely. 909. Line to neutral. Let's actually lock on the function, shall we? And then neutral to CPC. And that's all clear. I've got the Weha torque screwdriver. 1.6. Can you see that? 1.8. Calculate the ZS. Do my RCD testing at the consumer unit. So I could put this back on. Now I just got to pop that in there. Cool. And then I've left it as factory setting of 32 amps on the dip switches on the right, and it's factory set at 60 amps on the load management, so I've kept that. Lovely. Such a nice looking charge point. Right, I'm going to test this double pole RCD now. I'm going to test it on automatic type A. .38. So on a TN system, I believe it's got to be max 300 milliseconds at times 1 and 40 at times 5. Here I did a cycle 180 degrees times 5, 36.1, 7.69. We'll also just quickly test the functional button. Brilliant. I do love this Metabo 12 volt. It is mint. Obviously, it's not like your 18 volt. It doesn't pack as good punch as an 18 volt, but it is light, compact, and does the job. It's really lovely. I suppose the regulations have made it challenging. The constant change of regulations and RCDs and whatnot have made it challenging, but for installers and manufacturers, and some people get really bent out of shape. But what it boils down to is essentially a fancy outdoor socket. Look at that. That is a nice looking charger. It was about a 22 meter run in the end, from here into the soffit, through the loft, back down, drilled into the consumer unit cupboard under the stairs, installed a type A double pole, a true double pole RCD or RCBO, all tested. I'll get home, do all the paperwork, send off the invoice and certificate, and that's another job done. The last thing to do is stick on one of these warranty stickers, just in case anyone goes in the consumer unit and I get called back because there's an issue. If this is broken, I know that someone's been in there. I put that reference number on my electrical installation certificate, and I'll stick it just